I have to cheat and do this back and forth, so sorry. The hearing session, ordinarily board members will not respond to presentations and no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a comment made by members of the community during the hearing session. This is the appropriate point in the meeting for community members to speak on matters related to the closed session agenda. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the meeting. And Mr. Favela, were there cards presented this evening?
Yes, we do have 3 cards here.
Okay, so is there anyone who would like to speak now, or if they would like to speak at the next session?
Oh,
Well, that was, that's why I thought, I don't know.
Sorry for the confusion. We didn't have a closed session of for the board meeting, but we had this on here from the last time. So it's on there. We want to leave it remaining on in case somebody did want to speak. But the opportunity for the public to speak will be down in item number
It'll
2.
come up again.
But we just didn't want to take it off in case somebody was counting on. So that's why she's asking that question. So if not, then we can go to the next item.
can we proceed?
Right, so
We do have 3.
somebody wants to approve. Okay, so Ms. McBride is going to lead us on the flag salute this evening. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So item number 4, approval of the minutes of December 12th, 2022, organizational and regular meeting. It is recommended the governing board approve the minutes of the December 12th, 2022, organizational and regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion?
So I know that we had closed sessions starting our last meeting, and that closed session started at 5 p.m. The top heading of the minutes says 6 p.m. So I think we need to correct that to 5.
Are there other questions or discussion? Okay, with that, I will call for the vote. Ms. Ball? Yes. Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. What are we voting on?
To approve the minutes.
Oh, the minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, not the budget. Sorry. Aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Lundin?
Aye.
Thank you. And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you. And thank you for your grades. So I have copious notes here. Under community relations, number 1, hearing session. And then it's a repeat of what I read. So ordinarily, board members will not respond to presentations and no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a presentation. This is the appropriate point in the meeting for members of the audience to speak on matters of special concern, not on the present agenda. Should individuals wish to comment on items on the present agenda, they may do so during this portion of the meeting or at the time the item is considered by the board. To address the governing board, please submit to the clerk of the board a completed speaker card prior to the start of the open session portion of the meeting. And Mr. Favela says we have 3 speakers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so first we have Chris Clements. Topic of school vision. And, each person has 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. I just want to thank you for this opportunity to give me a moment to speak on something that's really dear to me. I'm a local resident of Fallbrook, actually subbed for the district for a number of years. a lot longer than I'd prefer to tell people. But I've got two kids coming up. It's gonna be looking at coming into the system here, and I have a niece and a nephew that are already here. So I was just kind of hoping if you guys could answer a couple of questions if possible. Are you board members in a collective agreement regarding the vision that you have within the district and where you want to take it? And if so, what are 3 or 4 policies that you would like to see in the district implemented? If you're not lockstep, that's okay. But I would like to know regarding certain policies, what you do have in mind individually. So if you could be specific on the 3 or 4 policies individually, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next we have Leticia Stamos. Superintendent selection.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm here because last month I addressed the board regarding the search and selection of the new superintendent for our school district. I don't see it on the agenda. Perhaps I missed it. So I'm here once again to ask the board to seriously look into bringing together a diverse group of people from Fallbrook to serve on a selection committee to make the recommendation for the new superintendent for our school district. We are in a, some people might say wonderful, some people might say scary position for the first time in over a decade to bring a top educator to our community, a leader that can inspire and motivate parents, students, staff, and community members. We look to you to take this first major and probably the most important task that you will have in your tenure. We look to you to take it seriously and judiciously. And the community deserves and asks for regular updates on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Next we have Sandra Forrest. District expenses.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I've addressed the governing board previously about expenses, in particular, the well-publicized excessive salary of Dr. Candace Singh. Her departure settlement and its source of funding, however, are a new concern which needs your attention. Many people are unaware that FUESD funds, like those of most public schools, are automatically channeled to legally mandated categories. All other non-mandated district programs, expenses, or services are paid from the leftovers, aka the general fund. These discretionary general funds are flexible but limited and vary from year to year. As of today, the district has forfeited over $400,000 of general funds due to the unbudgeted settlement with Candace Singh. It will be necessary to reduce services in several areas or spend a precious reserves to cover this unforeseen expense. I'm sorry your term as new trustees begins with a negative situation created solely by the previous superintendent. Singh was planning to leave the district. Her questionable new allegations and threats of future litigation had one purpose: to manipulate the governing board into a swift and hefty cash settlement, and just in time with 3 of 5 trustee positions on the ballot the very next day. This has created lingering general distrust of board efficacy, plus the district's reputation has suffered. The public needs assurance that the current board is fully committed to better decisions in the future. Fortunately, there is an opportunity to restore monies already spent for Singh's settlement. FUESD carries insurance for losses due to litigation. A few years ago, its insurer paid a judgment against the district for over $1,400,000. In November, the previous board approved an upfront cash payout of over $400,000 directly to Singh despite existing insurance coverage? Why didn't they explore filing a claim? What can be done now? How can this board restore the integrity of the district and provide real, not just promised, transparency? This board can easily and quickly restore public trust and benefit the budget by initiating a claim to cover Singh's settlement. It is a simple process. The board votes to submit a claim, the district forwards the required information, then the company makes the decision to pay or not. Submitting an insurance claim is not a political issue. The insurer makes the decision. If they accept the claim, the district gets the money and you get the applause. Whatever the insurance company's decision, a claim is worth pursuing. Once the district receives the insurer's decision, the public should be notified along with the company's reasons for denying or approving coverage. Again, governing board transparency needs to be demonstrated, not just promised. It would be so positive to begin this year with the announcement that you have potentially saved this district more than $400,000. I urge you to vote to contact the insurer, provide the necessary information, and see what happens. I hope you will take advantage of this possible existing resource for restoring these lost general funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our open session.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to move to item number 2, reports from the board. Ms. Sabal.
I have nothing to report right now.
Thank you. Ms. Lundeen.
The only thing I had to report is I'm looking forward to a Brown Act training program that we're given the opportunity at the end of this month. So thank you for facilitating that, Mrs. Moore.
Mr. Favela.
Sure. I just wanted to mention in response to Mrs. Force's comments, I don't know.
I can wait until later, but I just want to know that. Well, or do you want to just wait for the end of the?
Go ahead, that way we'll just wrap it up.
I didn't see a card up here, and so I asked and I was told to sign the sheet. And I believe Judy will sign the sheet too, just in case I go over my minutes. I'm just I have a few things to talk about, but I'm gonna add on to what Sandra said with restoring the loss of our funds possibly. There's a few avenues you can go insurance, but I think it's also important to look into the allegations of the former superintendent, Candace Singh, using her. I heard there was allegations and I don't know whether they're true or not, but I think it's worthwhile to see if she used her assistant to the superintendent to do work for her private company. I also want to know a little bit about, has anyone looked into the accusations of her doing workshops with the school lawyer that potentially were a conflict of interest? And again, I don't know if these things are true or not, but I think this is what I've heard at board meetings, so I'd like it looked into. If not, I'm asking the school board to take a vote to look into these allegations and possibly renegotiate her settlement. Or whatever avenue you have to do to recoup these losses. Also, I would like to request that before the school board hire, switching topics, a new superintendent, that you, before you hire an expensive search firm to recommend superintendents that will most likely come from outside our area and community, that the school board first post a local ad for a month, be it on your website. I think actually it's statewide or national, just on your website. But start there and see what candidates come forward. Again, I know from working with parents, their heartbeat is they would prefer someone who lives in Fallbrook or knows Fallbrook, is familiar versus an outsider that may be looking to move on in another 4 years or something. And it would be a way to recoup some of our money. Because we don't have to spend it. That's what I do. Whenever I have a loss, I find a way to cut corners elsewhere. So that would be my other request. See if any other quality candidates apply from our area that have a better understanding and commitment to invest in our kids and our community. If this position is possible to fill without a search firm, then that's wonderful. The other thing, I agree with the other lady. It would be great to have a local citizens committee. I don't know, select committee, if that's the proper term, to help vet the applicants. And also I noticed on the website that the school board meetings are not, they didn't put public comments where they're at. I don't know if I just didn't see it. So if you could put that. And then I also noticed that they weren't up. And I think Judy Willis is going to give me her minutes.
You don't have
Sign in.
any other cards.
Well, that's because again, we were told to, Yeah.
That's what she said.
but she did sign up. I only have like probably 30 more seconds, not too long. Basically, I just noticed that now that we're meeting in person, you guys have said that you'll no longer take comments via, the internet. And I just feel it's important in this day of technology to be more accessible to the community. I have a bunch of parents that wanted to ask questions about the transfer of the property. And because of childcare issues or maybe work schedule issues, they couldn't, but they could if they could do it remotely. So I would just ask that you guys would take a vote to make public comments still accessible via, remote and in live time, and not disenfranchise people that just don't have the ability to be here, but would love to be. And I think beyond that, and then along with that, I know sometimes you do public comments before a presentation, which is important because people might want to tell you something. But I also know sometimes the presenter says something and then we have questions after. So I would ask, I've seen other school boards do this, that after a presenter, you always, and they don't consider it public comment time. They just open it up to the community to engage after you guys have engaged with the presenter in case there's more, so that we can all learn from the experience. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Sure. I just,
You can go ahead and continue with Mr. Favela and your report. Thank you so much.
sure, I just wanted to ask for your continued patience. These are definitely, always sensitive issues to talk about, but we definitely take all your comments to heart. And so just asking for patience.
Make a comment? Is this an all right time? No.
And to continue with my report, so we just came off of Martin Luther King Day. I hope folks had a good weekend, had some time to reflect. That's something that we always take to heart in our home, Martin Luther King Day. My family had a chance to attend the Martin Luther King parade down in San Diego on the Bayfront. I would have joined them, but I'm on my second quarter studying, so I have pretty much hardly any spare time. But just really hope that our district is able to enjoy their day off and do some reflection. Also want to report that after our last meeting in December, I had a chance to attend the Winter Festival organized by Fallbrook STEM, the PTO at Fallbrook STEM. It was a great event right before the holiday break. Just really, I really love seeing those type of events where schools provide something social for the families, for the children. This is a small town here, and often these events are like the highlight of our week. So really love seeing these events. I kind of invited myself to the event. They were looking for some help for different vendors and stuff, and I said, I have a DJ system, and so that's how I got my foot in there. But it was awesome. I'm looking forward to any more events like that. I also during that week was able to attend a field trip with my 6th grader and Mrs. Avila's class to the Luz. And with Mr. Gordon out there, who continues to do awesome things. Really love to see how the program is developing out in the Luz. The theme was survival, learning survival. And they did a lot of cool things, including they learned how to sew some of their own clothes. If they had to sew a bag together, they were able to do that. They learned how to build a shelter that was supposed to be rain resistant, water resistant. That was pretty fun. And then there was some archery as well. Really, really awesome program. So it was fun to be a part of that. And just want to conclude with the plug-in for Fallbrook Girls softball and baseball. Right now, the time to register for sports programs. Fallbrook Girls softball will have assessments this Thursday and Friday at Ingold, starting at 6 o'clock. Folks can sign up on the spot and try out to get on to join the team. And I know that Fallbrook Youth Baseball, Bonzo Fallbrook Little League is also in registration. Their registration's open. I know soccer opens up in March, but they're registering right now. The season starts in March. And actually my boys playing basketball right now here at the Boys and Girls Club. So a lot of sports opportunities. The start of the year is a good time to get your children involved in some sports. All right, and that concludes my report.
Ms. Mella, Ms. McBride.
So like Mr. Favela, I got to attend a couple of community events, and I got to check out the Christmas decorated house, which was amazing with all the extreme stuff that they had. I was really impressed with all that work that they had to put into that. I understand they do it all the time. And the other thing is I got to go visit Santa's workshop. That was really fun down the street from that. So, but I need to ask if this, I don't know if I may bring up about the letter that we got that I wanted to share with the public. No, it's not on the agenda. So, okay, all right. All right, that's all I have to.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you all for coming. Thank you for your grace. I will get smoother at this as we go. I also want to thank Mrs. Martin. She's been very accessible to me. We are working behind the scenes to start planning to come out to some of the sites. I look forward to visiting all the sites. All of the board members are welcome to come. So we're trying to schedule that to come see all the wonderful work that is done here. And especially since I'm a middle school teacher, so I fully appreciate when people come to our site to come see the good things that we do. And we want to come see all the good things that all of you do so that we can share it with the public, because obviously the public doesn't have that ability to necessarily come to the sites during the day. And I know that there's wonderful work being done. So I'm looking forward to visiting the schools as are my fellow board members, and speak to the teachers, speak to the staff, see what you all do, hear what you have to say. We definitely hear you. We definitely are listening. If you give us the grace that we deserve, we're going to work as hard as we can to obviously help with the unique needs of Fallbrook. It is a wonderful town. Other people are so friendly. It's not as friendly where I work. So I really appreciate the fact that everybody is so accommodating and really understanding that this is brand new to us. This is why I have all my notes so I can kind of keep on track. And so we really appreciate that. And I really appreciate that. Yes, so moving on to business services, the first reading. Oh, sorry, I don't have that in my notes. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna turn this over to Ms. Martin.
And we did work well together in coordinating this, so thank you.
But
Dr.
she's much better at it than I am.
No. Thank you, Dr. McCray. It's been a while since our last meeting and it has been busy. There are 2 site visits that I'll report on that happened on the Friday before winter break. My first visit of the morning that day was to Live Oak Elementary, and I attended their leadership rallies. They had 2 back-to-back. And it's always great to see the students lead the programs. I'm still always continue to be impressed and amazed that when I was in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, I didn't have the courage to get up there and talk and actually facilitate the entire program. So that's really neat to see. While I was at Live Oak, I also had the opportunity to visit our special ed programs there, and in particular, the SEAS program, SEAS. Standing for Social, Emotional, Academic Support. Other districts may call it Specialized Academic Instruction, but it's really a special education program for students where their behavior impedes their learning. I was able to talk to some of the students in the class there, and it was an awesome experience. And so I want to publicly acknowledge and thank their teachers, Ms. Rebecca Martin and Mr. Brian Gabaldon, their entire support staff team of special ed assistants, behavior techs, psychologists, for their dedication to these students. In years past, these students would have been sent outside the district, having to ride a bus to go to programs at Carlsbad or, somewhere else. And we should be really proud that we're able to support our students and keep them here in our district, in their neighborhood where they belong, and provide that level of support. But hats off and kudos to Ms. Martin and to Mr. G, as he's referred to, Mr. Gabaldon. My second visit of the day was to San Onofre School on Camp Pendleton, and Ms. Wilma Shaw, the assistant principal, happened to mention in a completely unrelated meeting and conversation that there was a student there who had recommendations about our facilities. And that made me go, piqued my interest, and I want to talk to this student. So Ms. Shaw made arrangements, and I brought Mr. Bixler, our director of facilities, with me, since these were facilities recommendations, especially on a brand new school that, what is this? Ms. Shaw arranged for me to talk to LJ, Haley, Jason, and Caden. And like I said, Mr. Bickler and I met with them and listened to them, and it was such a great conversation with some really good ideas that I think the adults in the room walked away going, wow, these are the people that we do this for. And from their perspective, just to hear how they see things and some of the services that we provide. The students were, they are smart, polite, respectful, thoughtful, everything I would want my children to be. And it now prompted me to look at starting what I'm kind of just calling briefly Superintendent Student Advisory Council, where we have representatives from each school, student representatives, and we meet on a monthly basis. I don't know, via Zoom or, because we're so far spread out. But really, there are 3 questions that I would like to pose to these students and really hear what they have to say. What do they love most about their school? What could we improve about their school? And what's their hope for their school? So that's something that I'm looking forward to starting. And I want to thank Mr. Nisley, principal there, and Ms. Shaw for inviting me. And also I want to thank LJ, Haley, Jason, and Caden for being my inspiration to start this. I hope that good things come out of it. And Dr. McCray and I have already talked about this, and she shared her experiences with it, and having some of the kids be able to come here. We don't have student representatives on the board, but just to be able to come here, lead the flag salute, do different things. And I just think it would be a really good experience for all. So thank you. Now we're to the next one.
Moving on to section 4. Number 1, action school accountability report cards. It is recommended the governing board approve the school accountability report card for the following school sites: Fallbrook STEM Academy, Fallbrook Homeschool Virtual. Did I skip one? Sorry. Oh, that's one. Oh, that's one. Okay. Okay. Going back, sorry. Number 1, first reading, territory transfer request between Fallbrook Union Elementary and High School Districts and Bonsall Unified School District. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Martin.
Thank you, Dr. McCray. Let me get my notes on there. Tonight, we are presenting information regarding a territory or a boundary transfer, a proposed transfer between Bonsall Unified, Fallbrook Elementary, and Fallbrook High School Districts. Mr. Bryson Bickler, our Director of Facilities, will be making the presentation with support from, and I believe it's virtually, Ms. Caroline Brown. She's a consultant, and there will be an opportunity for the board at the end to ask questions. I want to just give a little bit of background about the presenters and a little bit about the process. First, about the presenters, Mr. Bickler has been with the district as the Director of Facilities for 3 years. Prior to working with us, he held a similar position in a school district out of state. He brings a wealth of knowledge and has been key in closing out the base school construction projects and facilitating the long-range facilities plan currently underway. So we are pleased that he is part of our team. Miss Caroline Brown, who I think is going to be on Zoom, is with Eric Hall and Associates. Ms. Brown has experience as an executive director for capital programs and technology with 40 years of experience working in education, working for school districts. Ms. Brown is skilled in facilities, demographics, planning, project management, and construction. She is familiar with all facets of construction, boundary issues, school capacity, the bid process. And she is also highly respected in the school facilities world. The Citro development is located off of the 1576 freeway. And it's interesting how this came about into our attention, which was a newspaper ad that advertised new homes in Fallbrook with a new school. And we had the same reaction, what? And so I had asked Mr. Bickler to look a little bit further into what's going on. And in doing so, we discovered that yes, there is a proposed new school, but there's an entire community that the boundaries, when drawn by the developer and submitted to the county years ago, quite frankly, were not with logic, didn't make sense, split right through property line, through houses. So we could live next door to each other and literally be at different school districts, not just different schools. And so in an effort to try and keep the communities together, we worked with Fallbrook High School District and Bonsall Unified with all three districts, the same intention, to do what was going to be best for the students and the communities. At the same time, there's education code about things that must occur as far as keeping things revenue neutral and some other things that I'll let them go through. But this is something that we aren't required to do. It is something that right now we're going to be bringing back as a recommendation, as is the Fallbrook High School Board and the Bonsall Unified Board. We're all on the same timeline as far as the first presentation being at this meeting and action hopefully being taken at the February meeting. But if any of the districts choose not to, then it remains as it is, and we deal with the community and the parents at that time as far as what it means and which districts they're assigned to. So wanted to give you just a little bit more of the background, but I will ask Mr. Bickler to go ahead. Start.
Thank you for the kind words, Mrs. Martin, and your role in this whole thing. So good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope you got through the storm okay. A little bit of crazy weather. So I'm excited to update you on a proposed adjustment to the Citro community. Like for anyone listening, we are only talking about, I just want to take the air out of the balloon. We're only talking about an adjustment to Citro, nowhere else in the Fallbrook community. So tonight we're focused on that one development. So we've been, as Ms. Martin said, we've been collaborating with Bonsall and with Fallbrook High School District since April to try to kind of figure this out once we identified the issue that Ms. Martin just described. And we also have a letter of support on a solution that we're going to present to you tonight from the developer, who's taken a look at our proposed adjustment also. So with that, our agenda tonight, introduction, Cindy took care of that. Thank you. The Citro development project, I want to tell you and get everyone and make sure that everyone's very familiar with the Citro community. So we'll look at some maps. We'll talk about the process and the study we did to come forward with this option for you. We will talk about the study parameters that we used. And then I'll show you some graphics of the original boundary as we sit today and the proposed adjustment so that you can kind of see where things would lie. And then we'll end up with some next steps so you know what's coming next. So first, where is Citro? Some of you, if you haven't heard of it, I have it on the map here. There we go. I have it on the map here. And so here's the 15. You know, I'm from California. When I say the 15, you know, you say the before the highlight. Here's the 15. So just east of the 15 where this is circled is the Citro community that we're discussing tonight. And then in relation to our district boundary map, again, Citro is in the very south corner. The feeding schools are Live Oak and Potter Junior High. And again, You saw kind of where it was from satellite view, and this is where it is in relation to our total district boundary. So shown here, forgot to flip the slide. There we go. Shown here is the existing FUESD boundary. And basically in brown, everything, you see this line right here. This is the current boundary. So if you look at that, you can see, as Ms. Martin described, it cuts right through a number of cul-de-sacs, streets. It cuts through down on the bottom here, the multi-home condos, I think you would call them. It cuts right through those. So those are not even together at the moment. And everything in green is Bonsall. Everything shaded in brown is currently Fallbrook. So now just talking about the process that we kind of went through to bring an option forward for you to consider. First, identification of the problem. I think I showed that. I think it's pretty evident in the last slide that it's not best if 3 homes on the same cul-de-sac are not in the same district. So again, the current boundary dissects streets, lots, housing types, and cul-de-sacs. Once we identified that, we began, as Ms. Martin spoke, collaborating with the other districts to try to figure out a solution with the goal of just making logical, common sense adjustments that are in the best interest of families. At that point, the districts engaged Zonda Advisory, who specializes in this, district territory transfers, as well as legal, to make sure that we're following all the correct steps to make a territory transfers. It's not something we do every day, as everyone knows. So the governing board approved the Citro boundary study back in April. So we engaged a study, shared costs between the districts, and we defined some parameters for that study based on some regulations that I'll tell you about in a second. And at that point, we're also in communication with the developer, Tri Point Homes. We made visits out there to talk to their salespeople to make sure that they have accurate information for prospective home buyers. So as far as parameters for the territory adjustment, it's really based on educational code 35753, which speaks to a number of things that I'm going to summarize here. Equity, the programs offered, what are the demographics of the community, and also, as Ms. Martin mentioned, it has to be revenue neutral, meaning we can't all of a sudden, Bonsall can't have way more kids, we can't just give away, or Bonsall can't give away, right? It needs to project to be revenue neutral. And that includes developer fees as well as assessed value of the homes. So when we engage on advisory, they're looking at the model types. Some price points are higher out there, some are lower, some are condos. And so they take all of that into consideration when they do the study. I mentioned enrollment and projections. And then lastly, transportation. So if you look at the former map, which I'll show you another view of here in a second, it really doesn't lend itself to bus stops either. You know, you're driving a bus up to pick up half a close. It's kind of messy. So this is another look at our current boundary. Again, Fallbrook is to the north and the west of the line. Bonsall is to the south and the east. I'm going to show you a first look at the proposed solution. And you should have this in your packet, but pretty much I'm going to step out so I can use the pointer. You can see the new line, it kind of definitely curves more. It's not as linear as the old line, but what it does is it keeps the communities together. So now if I'm on this top street up here, these homes, if you're living across the street from someone who probably are going to have a good relationship with, you're in the same boundary. This is all Bonsall outside of the line. Everything inside of the line through here is Fallbrook. So that's sort of a first look at the adjustment. And again, the district representatives are all in agreement that this is the best option. We presented a number of options, and this is the one that's the most logical from the experts who do this every day. And also when district representatives looked at it. This is just another slide to kind of show you a summary of our current boundary versus what the new boundary would look like. So the original boundary, 342 units of the multifamily models are in one district, 24 were in another. Homes and cul-de-sacs. So one cul-de-sac had 15 homes are in one district and 10 are in the other. And that's how we currently stand. In another cul-de-sac, 4 homes are in one district and 9 are in the other. Another concern is on a main street in the development, homes across from each other and next to each other are potentially attending different districts. So that's where we stand today. The revised boundary is shown on the lower right of the screen. A summary of kind of highlights of what that would do. Places homes and cul-de-sacs and homes across from each other in the same school district. The multifamily homes are together by similar housing type to keep families within the same buildings in the same school district. And transportation routes are more cohesive for each district. So bringing us to next steps, and then we can do some, we can take questions if you have any. But some of the next steps, Ms. Martin mentioned, this is going to the board with Fallbrook High School and also Bonsall at their next board meetings for their consideration as a first reading and discussion. The developer would then need to provide updated information regarding the number of units sold and occupied and edit the resolution. That's just because they're currently selling homes, and if it's more of a programmatic adjustment, but they have to keep those updated. So then when a petition goes forward, it's an accurate count for the county. So we would need to update the resolution with that information. And then at the February board meeting, each of the 3 districts intends to have a second reading for consideration of approval. So if that happens at all 3 districts, then once approved, we forward the signed resolution and the petition to the county superintendent for their processing. So that is all I have. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm here to try to answer any questions you have. And we also have Caroline. I hope she can hear me. She can. Caroline on Zoom from Eric Hall Associates, and she has a ton of experience with this type of thing. So if there's any questions, we're happy to take those. Yep.
What are they going to do with the proposed school site that I went out there today and drove around and checked different things out, and they have a whole area set off for a school site? Are they not going to use that?
Yeah.
Or
Caroline, I'll try to answer this and you can jump in.
I'm sorry, I think I'll interject there. What I'd like to do is get the official statement from the superintendent of Bonsall on what their intention is and what their timeline is, and get back to you on that if you don't mind.
The short of it is, though, it's not in our district boundary. The proposed school site is not in Fallbrook's territory, and nor would it be from this adjustment. It's just on the other side of that. Any other questions? Anything else? Any other information we can provide? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bickler, I'm wondering if I could interject on maybe what the timeline is after the petition and the resolution goes to the county superintendent.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So once the package is put together and signed and sent to the county superintendent, which is the San Diego County Office of Education, they have 30 days to validate the petition. And then they have 60 days to have the county committee review the petition and the resolution and provide public hearings within each district jurisdiction. So there would be within 60 days, sorry, there would be a hearing in the Bonsall Unified jurisdiction, as well as a hearing in the elementary and the high school jurisdiction. That could be 1 meeting or it could be 2, but it does qualify for 1 meeting. And then within 120 days, they would have to approve or disapprove or provide a different option. And so we're estimating, based on that timeline, that we would potentially be complete with this transfer by September of 2023. And that would be well before much of the development is developed. They have extended their development timeline. They were going to be finished by 2026, and now they've extended it to 2030, probably for obvious business planning reasons where the economy is not going as quickly as it was before. So we do have time on our favor to make it so that we can do this transfer prior to a lot of occupancy.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, currently, Bonsall and Fallbrook work together to accommodate transfer requests. How will they handle this in the future going forward? If you are assigned a certain school and you want to go to the other school?
An interdistrict transfer
Yes.
request. So there is existing education code is that if, once you're in a district, you're in that district. So if there were currently students that were in our district, let's just say, that this boundary puts them in the Bonsall district, they would be able, under education code, to continue to go to our district. I believe that, and I don't want to speak for the other districts, but I will say in the spirit of cooperation that we all had together, that it's not in anyone's best interest to fight what a parent or family wants to do or where their kids are already going. So I don't believe, I know it's not our district's intention to suddenly, you come here. It's really, these are new homes with families coming in and not sure where they were supposed to register or send their kids. And in the very beginning stages, it was very confusing because literally you could see from that map, but I don't want to speak for the other districts, but I will say just in the collaborative way that we worked on getting to this point, I don't think that would be an issue. And certainly they're protected by current education code that once they're in, they're in.
Did anyone talk to any of the parents in the area?
Frankly, a lot of the homes aren't built.
Right.
But I mean, the ones that are currently there with dividing it.
We had conversations with some of the parents as they would call. We actually even had an email account set up for questions. Mr. Bickler and I actually went and met with TriPoint, their salespeople, quite frankly, to understand what their understanding of things were. And so when I say we talked to, if it was a parent that called in asking about where their school or where their child would go, we took any and all of them that, wanted to come in and help them out. Door to door, we didn't, but my understanding is that the developer, they work with those buying the homes and really communicated to those buying the homes. Either it was clear, your house is not one that's dissected, or I don't know what happened if they were even any of the homes that were potentially put across the middle there. What's happening absent an agreement is that the county, and Ms. Brown, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the county tax assessor's office is determining which district that particular house belongs to. I believe based on which way the door faces or there's some, I don't know. I don't know the standard for it, but they've taken the list of the number of houses that are split, and based on what, I don't know the logic, but I really do think it's something like which way the door faces, front door, determining you go here, you go, which still doesn't make as much sense because, anyways, having said that, that's what was happening absent any agreement that the districts would have about making a change. So I think I had said, we don't have to do this. None of the districts are obligated to do it. It was really trying to do what we thought would be best for the kids in that community, wherever they ended up going, be it here, Bonsall. And it was just a little twist because at the time this development went into play years ago, Bonsall wasn't unified. So all the students ended up at Fallbrook High School District. So it wasn't, it was really would be an elementary district issue. Now that Bonsall is unified, and now you're talking about high school kids, it's actually getting the three districts to either agree or not agree. And if the districts don't agree, or it's not something that the board wishes to pursue, then it stays as it is. And then that's where the families who might find out upon buying a house, or buying a house once it sells again, because these are all new houses, which district am I assigned to? And surprise, not the one that would seem logical, or where your neighbor goes, or the person across the street. So that's where we stand with this. And again, it was really something that we didn't need to do, and we don't need to do, but we feel like we need to do what's best for the students in the communities, and keeping the communities together as much as possible, still bound by what education code requires, and balancing it out as best as possible. And with all three districts coming together and independently, but unanimously selecting the same option, so that no district felt like it was left out, or that, that it wasn't fair. So we felt good about that decision, and so that's where we are with this now.
And I would just add this option, it's difficult to show on a map. But if you've been out there, you saw there's a lot of elevation, and for anyone listening that lives out there, you know that they build back up the hill. So a lot of those lines that go through green belts, although the homes look like they're right next to each other, really one home's way up here and one's way down here. So you may know the neighborhood down below, you may not, but chances are you know the person right, the street right in front of you. And so they tried to do that to keep, again, the community together the best we can. Is a perfect solution? I don't know, but I think it's an improvement.
It's a quick question. I'm assuming that the trustee area boundaries would also follow the boundaries as well, right? How would that get adjusted or updated?
I may need to ask and get back to you on that, or unless.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if Caroline can comment on that. But I would make the assumption that that would follow as well, because that would be the new district boundaries.
I can follow up. I can ask and follow up with you.
I added that to our list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Okay, so at this time, the questions were specifically coming from the board, but we will address the questions at the next meeting after we have the process what they just told us as well. So we definitely know you have questions, and we will definitely take your questions, just not at this moment. Thank you so much for your grace as usual. We could try, but I know. Okay, so at the next meeting, if you would submit the questions, we can address them at the next meeting. Or submit them ahead of time, which would be great. Thank you so much. So we're going to move to educational services. Number 1, action school accountability report cards. It is recommended the governing board approve the school accountability report card for the following school sites: Fallbrook STEM Academy, Fallbrook Homeschool Virtual Academy, La Paloma Elementary School, Live Oak Elementary School, May Ellis Elementary School, Mary Faye Pendleton School, Potter Junior High School, San Onofre School, Santa Margarita Leadership Academy, and William H. Frazier Elementary School. The governing board of each school district maintaining an elementary or secondary school shall develop and cause to be implemented for each school district in the district a school accountability report card. So Dr. Kimberly Husing, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, will provide a short presentation on the school accountability report cards. Thank you, Dr. Husing.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, President Dr. McCray.
board members and my cabinet members and our members in the audience tonight and at home. So it's my pleasure to just give a really brief explanation about what is a school accountability report card. And if you can believe it, these have been around since 1988. Every year, schools need to report on their progress, and it is a look back. So it's a state and federal law that if we receive state and federal money, we need to share our progress. And the purpose of a school accountability report card is to share with parents and the community what is happening and the important information from their schools. It is really a summative report. So that's the SARC, the School Accountability Report Card is like an end of closure, 1 year report, and it's really last school year. And we report it now. It needs to be posted February 1st, as opposed to the school plan, which is a prospective report. So again, it's an annual update and it's previous year data. We are required to post it on February 1st. Now it is January, middle of January, and the CDE has not completed all of their information, not to point fingers, but they haven't given us all the information yet to put in the report. So there are some blanks, and this did happen last year, if you'll remember. And what we'll do is resubmit the complete report once the CDE reports everything. But our requirement that we will meet is posting it by February 1st. What happens is Educational Services gathers the district-wide information, and then each principal reviews and updates their portions. So school description, vision statement, how parents are engaging in their school community, and like basically bragging about the great things that are happening at their school. And we distribute it by reporting to the CDE. So there's a portal that we upload all of our SARCs to. We also place them on our school website and on our district website, so they're accessible. And then, of course, if parents ask at the school site for it to be printed, they are printed upon request. Years and years ago, back in 1988 and forward, we had stacks and stacks of these at the schools, and we were killing trees. So now we print them on demand. The information included on the SARC, there's a lot of information, but here's the highlights: demographic data, school safety and climate data, academic progress, class sizes, teacher and staff information, curriculum adoptions, and then fiscal and expenditure data. So just to dive down a little bit deeper, this you'll be very familiar with is a graphic from our executive summary of the LCAP. So 4,927 students last year, 31% of those students came to us with a language other than English as their primary language at home. So in addition to learning all of the subjects and being students in our schools, they're also learning English. Also, we have 75% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and 15% of our students last year were students with special needs. Little picture of our demographics. Some information that we share about safety and climate are cleanliness of our schools, what the restrooms and sinks look like, structural integrity. We do fire safety reports. We look at the play structures every year and the school grounds as well. When the SARC is talking about the climate, they're talking about the opportunities for parents to engage at the school, how parents are communicated with, and how we share events and celebrations. Okay, so also information is academic data. And this has changed over the year. That's why I have a couple of years demonstrated here. So 18 and 19 was considered our last like traditional year, where we had local assessments in the fall, in the winter, and then we ended the year with the CASP, the SBAC, as the students call it. And then in 2019-20, of course, that was the year of the pandemic, and we didn't have a CASP, so we didn't have end of the year data. So the school accountability report card looked a little weird that year. And then in 2021, we did local assessments, and I use the visual of Renaissance because we in Fallbrook purchased Renaissance Place for STAR 360 reading and math, and those are our local assessments. And in that year, Fallbrook took fall, winter, and spring assessments, and that's how student data was tracked that year. And then last year was, again, maybe not a totally traditional year because we know COVID still impacted our school year last year. But in the essence of assessments, it was a traditional year with STAR 360 in the fall, in the winter, and then CASP in the spring. So this year we have the report on the dashboard as well with all of that data. And I just put the information here again about the CDE hasn't released all of that information yet. So as soon as it is ready, we will again repost it and meet our expectations. Teacher and staff information is also included in the school accountability report card. Teacher placements, credentials that teachers hold, student services, staff. So in addition to teachers in the classroom, we also have principals, assistant principals, counselors, psychologists. Each of our schools have a psychologist. It's amazing. If you have been in other districts, you know that is not the case everywhere. So that's really nice. We also have speech and language pathologists. We also in this district have speech and language pathologist assistants to increase services. And then we have, of course, our specialized academic instruction teachers, our special education teachers. And last year we started adding social workers. So you won't see all of the social workers because remember, this is a post report. Next year, you'll see where the social workers are that we have this year. We also explain what our curriculum adoptions are, the subject areas, the publisher that was selected through the adoption process, the year of adoption, and if there was a Williams report. And you'll remember quarterly, we have Williams reports, and that's explaining that we have met the sufficiency of instructional materials. And in Fallbrook, we always meet the materials. Our students don't go without here. And finally, there's fiscal and expenditure data. So per pupil expenditure information is provided, average teacher salary, and the types of services funded. And so here is a little test of all of the different kinds of funding that we receive, titles 1 through 4. So we receive funding in title 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those comes with strings, right? So then we meet the needs of those students that are generating those funds. We receive money also in the local control funding formula. We talk a lot about that during LCAP season. Also, we receive funding for migrant students. We do receive some funding for special education, although it's not enough to meet the expectations of what we provide our special ed students, but we do receive some money in special ed. We receive still ESSER money, which is the emergency money, ELOP, which is how we fund after school. EEBG is where we provide teacher training, and then the Tobacco Use and Prevention Education Block Grant, TUPE, is our fundings. And then here's just a snapshot of what a SARC looks like. I just grabbed Fraser's school accountability report card. They all look very similar. I love the consistency that all of our data will look the same and presents the same in this district. So there's the school name, there's the logo, and then it begins the explanation about what a SARC is. And again, these will be available on our website and at the school websites, and again, loaded on the CDE. That's just a really quick overview of the school accountability report card. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Favela.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. Are there any questions or discussion?
I just wondered, what are the state standards?
So we use the California state standards. That's what all California public schools are required to meet. And I can provide you links for them. I can put that in the Friday report if you like.
So this time I'll call for the vote. Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. McBride.
I will abstain.
Thank you. Ms. Lundin. Aye. And Ms. Small.
Aye.
And I will vote aye as well. So the motion passes. Thank you. So I'll be moving to item number 2, the action instructional calendars. It is recommended the governing board approve the instructional calendars for the 2023, 2024, and 2024-2025 school years. The attached instructional calendars were presented for first reading at the December 12th, 2022 regular meeting. At this time, I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Favela. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. McBride. Questions or comments?
I know that these calendars are meant to sync up with the high school as well, so it's good to see that. And it assures that students have 180 days of instruction, right?
Okay, so at this time I will call for the vote. Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. Aye. Thank you, Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Aye. Thank you, and I will vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item number 3, first read 2023-2024. I don't want to say this incorrectly. Is it Mike? It is Choate. Okay, Mike Choate Center Preschool Instructional School Calendar. And then number 4, information workshop and conference attendance. Number 5, information Williams complaint, second quarterly report. He's very helpful. Thank you for your patience. So item number, Roman number 5, consent agenda. It is recommended the governing board approve the consent agenda as presented. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the governing board to be routine and will be enacted by one action. There is usually no discussion of these items prior to the time the governing board votes on the motion unless members of the governing board, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or deleted from the consent agenda. So at this time, do I have a motion?
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Favela. Are there any questions or concerns, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Ms. McBride? Aye. Thank you, Mr. Favela.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Lundin. Aye. Thank you, Ms. Sabal.
No.
Thank you. And I will vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I will call for the adjournment of the meeting. And I will call it at 7:11.